All right, guys. So let's jump to the first guy. Okay. So they want all solutions, whether it's real, whether it's imaginary, doesn't matter. Okay. So this guy has 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Okay. So we have 2 options. I can group them. I can do grouping, and I can do division. Okay, we've done both. Usually we use division when they give us a place to start. They say, here's one root, here's one 0, here's one answer, start there. Okay? So usually when I do this, I'll start with grouping, see if grouping works. If grouping works, great. If it doesn't, then I'll kind of reassess. Okay? So grouping, when we did 4 terms, the first step was make sure it's in standard form. Okay, it looks like it's in standard form. Second step was GCF. So is there a GCF between all 4 of those guys? There doesn't appear to be, no. Okay. All right, so go to the next step, group. So I put the first 2 in a group, put the second 2 in a group, put a plus sign in the middle. Okay. And then I look for GCFs again, but now with the first group. So these 2 have a GCF. 1x squared. Okay. So that makes 3x plus 4. Okay. We've done that before many, many times. We've done this process many, many times. This is not anything new. Okay. So now I want to make the other guy into 3x plus 4. So I'm going to divide by 9, right? Divide by 9, you'll be able to do that. Divide by 9, so 9 goes in front. Oops, what was that? 3x plus 4. So grouping did work. How do we know that? Because I got the same guy twice. You want to get the same guy twice. If you can't get the same guy twice, that's when grouping doesn't work. Okay? So put the guy who repeats himself, rewrite that. Then the leftovers. Right? And then, are any of these difference of squares? No, close, right? X squared plus 9, very close, but not difference of squares, so we're not going to force that. Last step, set this guy equal to 0, set this guy equal to 0. So we got 3x plus 4 equals 0. And we got x squared plus 9 equals 0. So we need 3 answers. So the first one is going to give us 1, and the second one's going to give us 2. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. It's going to be negative 4 over 3. When you divide, you're going to get one answer. It's real. Negative 4 divided by 3. Doesn't need to be reduced. Leave it like that. The next one, what do I got to do to solve? Subtract 9 from both sides, right? Yep. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Subtract 9 from both sides. How do I get rid of a squared? Square root, right? What is the square root of negative 9? Plus or minus 3i, right? Always 2 answers when you take in the square root. Since there's a negative inside, it's going to be a 3i. So we get negative 4/3, real answer. Positive 3i, negative 3i. That's imaginary. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's flip to the other side. Again, it has 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try grouping. Okay, especially if they don't give you a place to start. They don't say, use this. This is a 0. Start with grouping. Okay, so grouping says standard form. Looks like it's already in standard form. GCF. Is there a GCF between all?
Negative 2x cubed.
Yeah, it's going to be negative 2x cubed. Good. So it's going to be negative because we want to get rid of that negative in front. Negative 2, because 2 is the biggest thing that goes into all of them. And then the lowest power is x cubed, so that's going to be our GCF. So we got negative 2x cubed. So that's going to leave positive 2x cubed, positive 9x squared, positive 8x, positive 36. So remember, GCF stays in front. Our focus is on the inside. Still got 4 terms. Now we're going to start grouping on the inside. So group the first 2 together. Group the second 2 together. Okay. So the first guy has a GCF of, I think, just x squared. Let's see, negative 2x to the third, and then x squared. So that's going to leave 2x plus 9. I want to make the other guy into 2x plus 9. So what am I going to divide by? 4. That's the key to grouping. The key to grouping is to make 2 guys, 2 binomials into the same. Okay. Negative 2x to the third is still in front. Rewrite the guy that repeats. 2x plus 9. Leftovers, x squared plus 4. Okay. Are there any difference of squares left? No, it doesn't. Again, x squared plus 4, very close, but not difference of squares. Okay, so our last step, set all 3 of these terms equal to 0, and that'll give us all 6 of our answers. We're going to get 6 answers. So this guy here, and this guy here. And x squared plus 4 equals 0. All right, so the first guy, it's negative 2 times x, so I'm going to do the opposite. Then third power means times itself 3 times, right? So what number times itself 3 times is going to make 0? 0. So that means I'm going to get 3 zeros. You only got to write once, but that's our answer 3 times. Okay. Next guy. Subtract 9 from both sides. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Negative 9 divided by 2. There's a 4th answer. Now we need 2 more. And that's going to be the last guy. Subtract 4 from both sides.
Thank you.
Okay. Square root. What's the square root of negative 4? Plus or minus 2i. Yep. And there are your other 2. So we got 4 answers that were real. 0, 0, 0, negative 9 over 2. 2 answers that were imaginary. Okay. All right. Okay, so we got 2 more. So the last 2, they give you a piece of information. They give you 4 terms. Like the last guy, like the next one, example 3. It's got 4 terms. X cubed, negative 7x squared, positive 17x, negative 15. But they give you a little piece of information. They say, hey, this guy right here is a factor. So what do we mean by a factor? What does that mean? A factor means that no remainder when we divide, right? So that's going to be where I start. Since it means no remainder, right? Division, right? Remainder goes with division. So this guy, oops, let me see. What the heck? There we go. Okay, so it means no remainder, right? So let's set up division. Can you set up long division? Yes, long division will work. And I noticed on the test, a lot of you guys liked long division and you prefer long division. Use long division if you prefer that. I'm going to use synthetic since it goes a little faster. Okay, so we got 1, negative 7, 17, negative 15. No remainder. What number goes inside the little house here? Positive 3, yeah. Not negative 3, positive 3, because it's the 0 of this guy, right? It's the 0. It's the guy I would plug in to make it 0. Okay. So this should work. Let's see. First guy goes down. Multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. It does. It did work. So that means they want us to find all of the zeros. That means that guy works. Yeah, that guy works. I'm going to have to include it in my answers. Now these guys now make a trinomial, right? So I don't have to do division anymore. But I have to give them their x's and x squareds and all that stuff. Okay. So the 1 is going to get what? What is 1 going to get? X squared, right? Because we go down in power. We started to the 3rd power. When you divide, you go down in power. So this is going to be 1x squared minus 4x plus 5. I still need 2 more answers because I have 2. I need 3 overall. I have 1 of them. So it's a trinomial. I have trinomial steps. Let's use the trinomial steps. Standard form, done? Yeah, Jasmine, question?
I was going to ask if I could use the version.
Yeah, go ahead. Factor out a GCF. Is there a GCF besides 1? No. So let's go to ABC. Okay. So we need to figure out the 2 numbers that multiply to be 5 and add to be negative 4? What are the two numbers that multiply to be 5 and add to be negative 4? Let's see. 5 and negative 1 make, no, negative 5 and, so the first one that comes to my mind is negative 5 and 1, but it doesn't multiply to be positive 5, right? That's why I left that guy up there, right? That means we're going to get some imaginary guys. That means our only recourse, our only way to do this is by this guy right here, which we did, which we practiced. Okay, so let's do that. So negative 1 parentheses plus or minus square root parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses over 2 times parentheses. A goes by the 4 and by the 2. B goes in the first 2 spots, and C goes in the one that's left over. Okay, multiply. Negative 4 times negative 1 makes positive 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. Minus 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so subtract inside the square root, I get negative 4. What is the square root of negative 4? 2i. So it's going to be 4 divided by 2 plus or minus 2i divided by 2.
2 plus I.
So it's going to be 2 plus I, yeah. 2 plus or minus 1i or just I when you divide. Because each of these guys gets it divided by 2. Okay. All right. All right, so the last guy. Oops. Let me see. Okay. All right, example number 4. So example number 4 kind of looks like example number 3, except one little part. This guy right there. That's not there, right? Well, we've actually done this before. We did it back, it's been a while. I think we did it back in August. What does that mean? When we did it back in August, I had this on the board. All right, if you check your notes, it's in your notes way back in the first chapter that we did. And you look at that, it kind of matches. It's in function notation. It's what we call function notation. X, whatever x is inside the parentheses. So x is negative 1, y is 0. So what they're saying is when x is negative 1, is going to be what? Where is it? Right here. A 0. Okay? So what this is saying here, it's saying in function notation, is that -1 is a 0. That's what it's saying. It's saying -1 is a 0. Right? Is, when you see equals, that means is, right? -1 is a 0. That's what it says. That's what it means. Okay, it's just function notation. That's the translation for that. Okay, so -1 is a 0. So they're actually giving us an answer. They're saying here's a 0. Well, when they give you an answer, use division. Okay, so let's use division. So let's set up division. We got 2, -14, +24, +40. Well, if it's a 0, that means there should be no remainder. Okay? What number is going to go in the house? -1 is going to go in the house. Not +1, -1. They're saying -1 is a 0. They're giving you an answer. All they want you to do is find the other two. Okay? So they're saying -1 is a 0. Okay? So move the first guy down, multiply, add straight down, multiply, add straight down, multiply, and it is a 0. So what I want you to do is finish the rest. Give me the other two. Give me the other two zeros. Okay, that's what I want you to do. So again, quadratic formula always works. Two numbers that multiply to be 80 to make -16, 20 and 4? -20 and +4, they'll make -16 when you add, but they don't make +80 when you multiply. And if I were to make this +20 and +40 and +4, they wouldn't make -16, even if I make them negative. Okay? So again, could there be two numbers? There could be. But I'm not going to sit here all day and try to figure that out. I'm just going to go right to the quadratic formula because that guy always works. Might be a pain in the butt to use sometimes, but it will always work. Okay, for trinomials, it'll always, as long as you use it correctly, as long as you put the correct spots, correct A, B, A goes where A goes, B goes where B goes, C goes where C goes, and then do your calculations correct, it will work. So 2 is A. Oops, forgot to put A is 2. B is -16. C is 40. 2 and 2. B is -16. C is 40. So I get +16 plus or minus 16 times 16 is 256? No. Is it 256? Yes. 256 minus 320? Over 4. 16 plus or minus the square root, and when I subtract those, 64, negative 64 over 4. So you get 16 over 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 64 is 8i over 4. So you're going to get 4 plus or minus 2i. And those are your last two answers. So it has one real answer, two imaginary answers. Okay? Here's the thing. When you take a test on this, you're not going to know if there's imaginary or real. You might get a question like this, and it gives you a real answer. So just be careful that every time you do it this way, you might not always get imaginaries, okay? But, yeah, because we've done this before. We did this earlier in the chapter where we got regular answers, okay? Real answers, not imaginary. Okay, so tape that in to page, was it 23? 23.
I have a question. By any chance, are you gonna have any other like notes or like little things to write down? Because usually when you have the stuff on the board, I put it like behind it. Does it matter if I put the same thing on it for this?
That's
page,
fine.
or-
Yeah, for sure. I would put that in there just to help you remind you.
Yeah. Okay.